Hey folks, it's been a long time since you've heard my voice probably, and it's been a long time since I've seen any work from you guys. So, we are going to start Chapter 7. Chapter 7 is all about shapes called quadrilaterals. Really, that's what the big part of the chapter is about. But what we're going to be talking about today is just angle measures inside of shapes. So you're going to see that the top of the worksheet, this is 7.1, says find angle measures in polygons. Now polygons, remember, are just shapes. And remember, if we look at this, it says name each polygon based off the number of sides that it has. Now, a couple things that I want to note to you about this chapter, and all the chapters from here on out. I am going to post the entire answer key for this entire worksheet on Planbook as well. Okay, so you will be able to see every single answer, every single definition, everything. That does not mean that that should be how you do these worksheets. I would always do the worksheets along with me and then use the answer key as a final backup if you can't get something. Okay? Always try this on your own first, but I want you to have every resource, so that way, if you have every resource, you will be able to get through this. Okay? Also, I'm going to apologize at the beginning for my handwriting. My handwriting is not very good on this thing. I'm trying to use a stylus that doesn't work very well, so I'm doing my best, okay? So, as we work through this, I'm just going to kind of mention a few things. I'm going to go through all the ideas. I'm going to go through all the notes, just like I usually do in class. I'm hoping that they take anywhere between 10 and 15 minutes, and that way you can see what's going on. If at any point you need to pause the video so that you can redo something, rewind it, do anything that you need to do it. Okay? Alright, so here we go. Starting out, the first picture. We obviously know this thing is a triangle. Okay? This is a triangle. We know that a triangle has three sides. There is only one triangle inside of a triangle, and we know that a triangle equals 180 degrees. Now this is where things get a little bit different. This is a four-sided shape, and this is called a quadrilateral. So you're going to notice again, this is where my handwriting starts to fall apart. A quadrilateral has four sides. Now the next part says how many triangles are in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw a triangle in here. You're going to see that there's one triangle here and one triangle here. So that means that there are two triangles. We know that there are 180 degrees in a triangle, and we know that there are two triangles, so 180 times 2 gives me 360. So there's 360 degrees in a quadrilateral. The next shape is called a pentagon. With a pentagon, there are 5 sides, and we know that we can make our triangles here and here. So there are 3 triangles. So those 3 triangles, we are then going to take those 3, multiply them by 180 because there's 180 degrees in each triangle. Oops. 180 degrees in each triangle. So this is going to be 540 degrees. Next one is called a hexagon. Hexagon has 6 sides. I'm going to draw my triangles on here on the hexagon. Here, here, and here. If you draw different triangles, that's totally fine. But just notice I'm making lines so that they have three sides on them, so each thing has a triangle. Okay? There are 4 of those. 4 times 180 is 720. And then finally the last one is called a heptagon. And I'm going to draw my triangles on here like this. Okay? You could draw them differently if you wanted to, but no matter how you draw them, there's always going to be 7 sides, and there's always going to be 5 triangles. 5 times 180 is 900, so every single one of those has, every single one of the heptagons has 900 degrees. Now, what I'm asking you to do right now is think of the relationship. So pause the video for a second and think of the relationship between this number and this number, this number and this number, this number and this number, this and this, and this and this. So give the video a pause and think about it for a second. Now that you've come back and thought about it, 7 and 5, 6, 4, 5, 3, 4, 2, 3, 1, they all have a difference of 2, right? If I take the top number and subtract them, I get 2 every time. So an n-gon, what this means is this is just saying a shape with any number of sides. It doesn't matter what the shape is. It could have 40 sides, it could have 3 sides, it could have 70 sides, no matter what. However many sides it has, we're going to call it n. If I want to figure out how many triangles there are, I take n and I subtract 2 from it. 7 minus 2 is 5, 6 minus 4 is 2, 5 minus 2 is 3, so on and so forth. If I want to figure out how many degrees are in there, I take that n minus 2, that's the number of triangles there are, and I multiply it by 180. So we've actually just come up with a formula for how many degrees there are inside of a polygon. Okay? So that's what that top part looks like. The next part, the polygon interior angles theorem, means that the sum of the interior angles of a convex polygon is n minus 2 times 180. So if I just draw a random shape, it doesn't matter what that shape looks like. This has 4, so n equals 4. So it's going to be 4 minus 2 times 180. And 4 minus 2 is 2 times 180 is going to give me 360. So that tells me that there's 360 degrees. Okay? The next one's a lot easier. The sum of the exterior angles of a convex polygon is 360. No matter what, if I'm talking about exterior angles, the answer is 360. The way that you look at exterior angles, this is a shape. The way that we look at exterior angles is these things. If you ever see something that looks like this, they're always asking you about exterior angles. These things right in here are the exterior angles. So those are the exterior angles that we're dealing with. Okay? So when you look at these, those are the two big ideas to take away from this chapter. That's basically all we're going to be using this entire time. So you need to be able to figure out exactly how many degrees are inside of a polygon. You're going to need to figure that out every single time, and now we're just going to go through some example problems. So what I'm planning on doing for the rest of these chapters, or sections, is I'm planning on going through one example from each of the spots. That leaves you with tons of practice problems. These worksheets are your homework, so that leaves you with tons of practice problems where if you have any questions, you can ask them. Okay? So you can always send me a message on Remind. You can always send me a message on and on email. You can always contact me. I'm pretty much always by my phone, which means that I'm always going to have access. Okay? So let's go through some examples. I'll go through one from each section. That leaves you with 4 or 5 things to do on your own, and if you have questions, you have to say, hey, Mr. Shepard, can you please let me know how to do this problem, and I'll work you through it. Okay? So a decagon. Decagon is one that we don't know the name of, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a decagon, which has 10 sides. So if I want to find the sum of the exterior or interior angles, a decagon has 10 sides, so I'm going to do 10 minus 2, and I'm going to multiply that by 180. 10 minus 2 is 8, so I'm really just saying 8 times 180, and 8 times 180 is 1,440. The sum of the exterior angles, no matter what, is 360, period. Okay? I lied, I'll do 2 on this one because this one might be a little bit confusing. If I look at a 58gon, 58gon just means that n equals 58. So I'm going to do 58 minus 2 times 180, and then 58 minus 2 times 180 gives me 10,080 degrees. So 10080. And no matter what, the exterior angle is always 360. Okay? So that's what that looks like. Moving on to the next part, it looks like this. This is where we introduce a little bit of algebra. So since we've introduced a little algebra, this makes things just a little tiny bit more challenging. Okay? Now with algebra, basically what we're looking at here is we're trying to figure out first how many degrees are in there, and then we have to figure out what's going on with it. So if I look here, I see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. First step is going to be to figure out how many degrees are in there. So it's going to be 6 minus 2 times 180. Okay? 6 minus 2 times 180 equals 720. So there are 720 total degrees inside of that shape. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of these and I'm going to add them up and set them equal to the number I just found, because all of those should add up to that number. Okay? So it's going to be 123 plus 113 plus 145 plus 87. I'm going to run out of room, so I got to go to the next row. Plus x plus 2x. I should have 6 angles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got all of my angles. Now I'm going to set it equal to 720, and now it's just algebra at this point. So now I just have to figure out the algebra. Okay? So I'm going to combine all of these numbers together because they're like terms. So I'm going to combine all those, which is equal to 468. If you don't believe me, use your calculator. And then I'm going to combine all of these numbers together, because they're like terms, so that's 3x, and that's going to equal 720, sorry. This should be 720. So 720. I'm going to subtract 468. And when I subtract 468, I'm going to end up with 3x equals 720 minus 468 is 252. Divide by 3, and I get x equals 84. This is why I told you guys last week during the enrichment period that this was going to be very, very important for the coming sections. If you don't know how to do this simple math, you have to ask me questions on it. Because at this point, this is just 2 and 3 step equations. Okay? So moving on to the next one. Oops, I have to change this. These are what exterior angle theorems look like. Okay? We're going to work on this one on the right. But now I know this is actually a little easier for me. Anytime I see a picture that looks like this, I know it's always going to equal 360. We still take the same exact steps, so we're still going to add all of these angles together, but this time we're not counting the number of sides, we're just going to set them all equal to 360, which is way easier, right? So I'm going to do 2x plus 2x plus x plus 3x plus 4x. Now again, I'm going to count the number of angles just to make sure I didn't miss anything. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 angles on the picture, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 angles down below. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to make sure that I combine all my like terms. Everything that has an x gets combined, everything that doesn't have an x gets combined. So all of these have x's, which means they all get combined. And if they all end up getting combined, that's going to be 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5, plus 3 is 8, plus 4 is 12. So it's going to be 12x equals 360. Now I'm going to divide by 12, and I'm going to get x equals 3. That's how every single one of those problems is going to work, no matter what. Every single one of those problems is going to work the exact same way. Now, the last part is the table. And the table is very tricky compared to a lot of the other stuff. Okay? So the table is a really tricky one. Before we do anything else, I want you to cross this, not that one, sorry. I want you to cross this row out, because that row is not good. We're not going to deal with that row, because it's a little bit too tricky for us to try to get there. Okay? So, what we're going to do right now, sorry if you can hear my kids downstairs, it's lunchtime and they're singing Frozen. But what we're going to do is we're going to go through this row here, and we're going to go through this row here. Actually, we'll go through a different row. We'll go through maybe this row here, and then everything else will be kind of on you so that you can see how it works. But an n-gon has n number of sides. The way that I figure out the interior angles is n minus 2 times 180, just like it always was. If I want to find, so what this is all about is about regular polygons. Regular polygons are shapes that have the exact same angles and the exact same sides. If you want to see a picture of what one of these looks like, it looks like, or what we can draw, is it's a shape that has all angles and sides that are the same. So my drawing is not perfect, but it means that all of these here are congruent to each other. And it means that all of these angles here are also congruent to each other. So, hang on one second. So this and these are all the same. Every single one of those is the same. Okay? So when we go back and look here, and if I want to find the measure of each interior angle, I'm just going to take this column right here and divide by the number of sides. So n minus 2 times 180, and I'm going to divide it by n. The sum of the exterior angles is always going to be 360, and if I want to find the measure of each exterior angle, I'm going to take 360 and I'm going to divide that by n. Okay? So now let's work through a different one. We can try to figure out a couple different pieces of information here, but I'm going to work on that example that has 1440 there. Okay? So I'm going to work through the example that has 1440 right here. So first thing we need to do is we need to figure out how many sides there are. Okay? Now if we look back over at the, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. If we look back over at this column over here, 1440 is the sum of the interior angles. So if the interior angles equal 140, then that means my formula that I had before, n minus 2 times 180, is going to equal 1440. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to solve this. So I'm going to divide each side by 180. So I'm going to get n minus 2 equals, and then 1440 divided by 180 is going to be 8. And then I'm going to add 2, so I get n equals 10. So that's going to tell me that the number of sides that I have is 10, and this thing is a decagon. So that's a decagon. Okay? Now if I want to find the number of angles, or the measure of each interior angle, I'm going to take the angles that are inside. I'm going to divide it by the number of sides, which is 10, and I get 144. If I keep moving down, the sum of the exterior angles is always 360. 360 divided by 10 is 36. Okay? That's how this works. I'm going to try to keep each of these videos around 15 minutes, so that way you have about 15 minutes to watch the video, and then maybe 5 or 10 minutes to try a couple practice problems, and then come back tomorrow and try a few more practice problems before we get to our next video. Okay? So this is how things are going to work. If you have questions, please make sure that you ask me. Please make sure that you say, hey, I don't understand what's going on. And again, please don't use the answer key until you're actually working on the problems yourself. Don't just print out the answer key and think that you're going to learn this stuff, because you're going to have to try it yourself before you get there. Okay? Alright, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. Make sure you let me know if you have any issues or concerns. I'd be happy to hear from you. See you later.